It is Friday evening when we are recording this podcast, and we will post it for you to listen over the weekend because this is a very interesting and very unusual but yet entertaining story for our oil palm farmers. What if I told you that a $5 piece of rotting plywood is really the only thing standing between you and a massive 15% loss of your harvest?
Right.
If you want to protect your yields from rodents without burning cash on expensive chemicals, you need to stay and listen. We are going to reveal the most interesting and profitable farm actions right at the very end. Keep it locked here. Welcome to this podcast episode brought to you by AGS Agriculture Global Solutions, your partner for better farming practices.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So today, let's focus on a brand new study. It was just published a few weeks ago, actually, in March of 2026.
Oh, wow. So it's fresh.
It's very fresh. And this research looks at a very specific operational detail, which is the maintenance of barn owl nest boxes within oil palm ecosystems. Now, just to get the origin of this out of the way, this study was conducted across 5 commercial estates over in southern Thailand.
Right. Okay. But I mean, for those of you managing estates right here in Malaysia, the parallels are, they're pretty direct, right?
Oh, absolutely direct.
Yeah.
Southern Thailand shares, the exact same humid monsoon climate, the same monoculture landscape, and frankly, the exact same intense pest pressures.
Yeah.
So the findings we are discussing today, they are highly relevant and immediately applicable to Malaysian smallholders. You can take this data straight to your farm tomorrow.
Exactly. And just to set our mission for today, we are not going to get bogged down in complex biology. Instead, let's focus purely on the actual physical infrastructure of pest control, because we are looking at a very tangible threat here. Rattus tiamanicus.
Yeah, the wood rat.
Right. And we all know what happens when rat populations in an estate are just left unchecked.
Okay.
You walk the blocks, you see the freshly gnawed bunches, and suddenly your overall output takes a massive hit.
It's devastating. I mean, historically unmanaged rat populations can wipe out like 10 to 15% of your total yield.
Which is huge.
It is. When you start calculating that loss in tons per hectare across your entire farm, the financial damage is just staggering.
Yeah.
But what constantly surprises me, honestly, is the industry's default reaction to simply, throw chemical baits at the problem.
Right, the chemical route,
Right.
which is such a deeply ingrained habit for so many estates.
It really is.
Yeah.
Relying heavily on chemical anticoagulant rodenticides is, it's just a historical reflex at this point. But from a field advisor's perspective, relying on those chemicals is a severely flawed strategy.
This is the cost.
The cost is one thing. Yeah, they are a massive recurring expense. But more critically, they trigger a chain reaction of secondary poisoning.
Right, I've heard about this.
Yeah, so the toxic residues from the bait accumulate in the tissues of the rats when natural predators or scavengers consume those poisoned rats.
The predators ingest the toxin, too.
Exactly. They ingest it and they die as well. So you end up, systematically wiping out the very wildlife that could be providing you with free natural pest control.
Which naturally brings us to the biological alternative that many of the more progressive estates are using, right? The barn owl, Tyto alba.
Yes, the barn owl.
But I want to pause on the mechanics of this because, it is easy to say just use owls without actually understanding the architectural reality of our estates. We know these owls are incredibly efficient nocturnal hunters. I mean, a breeding pair and their chicks can consume, thousands of rats a year?
Thousands. They're incredibly effective.
However, a monoculture landscape is missing a critical structural element for them to actually survive.
It is entirely missing natural tree cavities.
Yeah.
Barn owls, they don't build nests out of twigs out in the open branches like, other bird species do.
No, they need shelter.
Exactly. They require deep, secure, totally enclosed cavities to lay their eggs and raise their chicks safely away from predators. In a natural, undisturbed forest, you have old-growth trees with hollowed-out trunks.
Deadwood, that sort of thing.
Yeah, massive decaying branches that provide these spaces naturally. But in a commercial estate, every single palm is uniform, it's solid, and it's subjected to regular harvesting cycles. There are basically zero natural cavities available.
So there's nowhere for them to go.
Nowhere. Therefore, providing artificial nest boxes is the absolute non-negotiable prerequisite to establishing a barn owl population. If you do not provide the housing, the owls simply cannot colonize your farm.
So we are essentially providing like subsidized housing for a highly effective but high maintenance security team.
That's a great way to put it.
If we provide the barracks, they provide the security. But here's the contradiction I see out in the field all the time, and I really want to push you on this.
Yeah.
We spend the capital to build these boxes, we mount them on poles across thousands of hectares, and then we just walk away. We expect them to last forever. I always tell farmers, think about buying a brand new tractor but never changing the oil. Eventually it breaks down. Aren't we doing the exact same thing with barn owl boxes? Is just putting up a box enough? Or are we throwing money away by abandoning them to the elements?
We are absolutely throwing money away. And that is the exact contradiction this new 2026 study set out to quantify. The researchers wanted to measure precisely how fast that initial investment deteriorates when it's neglected and, how that physical deterioration directly impacts your biological rodent control.
Quick note, tell us in the comments what oil palm topics you want next so we make episodes on what matters to you. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you are not subscribed yet. Give this episode a like and write a comment. This helps our YouTube channel so we continue transforming oil palm scientific articles into language that is easy to understand and digest.
Okay, so let's examine the actual data from the researchers. They monitored 452 nest boxes across 5 different plantations.
That's a solid sample size.
It is. They labeled these plantations CPI-1 through CPI-5, and they tracked the condition of these boxes monthly for over a year, from January 2022 to May 2023. And filtering out all the academic jargon and looking purely at the operational outcomes for the farmers, the contrast between these estates is it's monumental.
Yeah, I was reviewing those numbers before we recorded, and the gap between the best and the worst performers is staggering.
Let's talk about the physical reality first, though. If these boxes are typically built out of standard plywood, how do they survive our climate at all? I mean, plywood usually delaminates, warps, and falls apart after like a single week of heavy tropical rain.
Right, the microclimate inside an oil palm canopy is incredibly harsh on untreated or poorly maintained wood. You have intense tropical humidity that constantly permeates the wood fibers, basically on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, you can feel it in the air.
Exactly. And during the dry stretches, temperatures spike, which causes the wood to expand and warp. Then the heavy monsoon rains hit, water seeps into those newly formed warped cracks, and it pools on the floor of the box. And once it's wet, it's game over.
Once the wood is damp and compromised, the decay accelerates rapidly. Fungi take hold, and then the termites move in. Termites in our region are highly aggressive, and a damp, rotting plywood box is essentially an all-you-can-eat buffet for them.
Gross, but true.
It is a microscopic, daily breakdown of the structural integrity.
And that structural breakdown has to have an immediate effect on the owls. We are not just talking about the roof looking a little ugly, we are talking about a compromised environment.
Exactly. From the owl's perspective, a compromised box is a biological death trap.
Wait, a death trap, really?
Yes, especially for the chicks. Barn owl chicks, particularly in their first few weeks of life, are highly vulnerable to hypothermia if they get wet. They do not have their waterproof adult feathers yet.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so if the roof leaks, or if the floor is rotting and harboring pests like termites or predatory ants, the adult owls will perceive the site as structurally unsafe. They will immediately abandon the nest.
So they just leave?
They leave. And when your security team abandons their post, the rats immediately move back in, and your yields in tons per hectare will drop.
So getting back to the study's data, how did this play out between the different plantations?
Well, take the best performing estate, Plantation CPI-1. They managed the largest operation in the study, with 289 individual boxes. Yet, they maintained a damage rate of only about 1.2%.
That's incredible.
It is. At any given time, almost 99% of their boxes were in perfect functional condition because they had a regular scheduled repair program.
And then we look at plantation CPI-4 on the other end of the spectrum, sitting at over an 11% damage rate.
Right, and the defining variable there was that researchers found zero evidence of any repair activity at CPI-4.
None.
Nothing at all.
Not a single repair. They installed the boxes and let nature take its course.
But let me stop you right there, because we need to factor in the weather. The study clearly highlights a massive spike in deterioration during the wet season, running from May to October.
Yep, the monsoon season. Right. If the monsoon rain and the resulting termite infestations are the primary mechanisms destroying the wood, why did plantation CPI-1 survive the wet season so well? I mean, they are in the exact same geographic region as CPI-4. They are dealing with the exact same monsoon rains and the exact same termite pressure.
That right there is the most crucial insight from this entire study.
Yeah.
Management practices are the primary driver, not the weather. Weather is merely a stress multiplier.
Okay, a stress multiplier.
Exactly. A well-managed plantation actively buffers those climate effects.
Hmm.
If they spot a minor crack developing in April, they seal it. If a roof panel starts to warp, they replace it before the heavy rains start.
You stay ahead of it.
Yes, a poorly managed plantation simply ignores the crack until the entire floor rots out in July. The continuity of your biological pest control service is not a biological accident. It is a direct, measurable result of your management decisions.
So how do you actually apply this brand new data to your own farm tomorrow? How do we turn these findings into concrete instructions to cut costs and secure yields?
Based on the operational guidelines presented in the study, there are 3 critical steps you need to implement. First, you must fundamentally shift your mindset.
Okay, mindset shift.
Treat these nest boxes as core farm infrastructure. Stop viewing them as a plant-and-forget item. They require continuous budgeted investment, just like maintaining your estate roads or your drainage canals.
That makes perfect practical sense. But what does the physical maintenance schedule actually look like?
Step 2 is implementing mandatory biannual inspections.
Yeah.
You need your field teams to physically assess every single box at least twice a year.
Just twice.
At least twice, yes. And the timing of these inspections is non-negotiable. You conduct the first inspection right before the wet season begins to reinforce the boxes against the coming rains.
Right, prep for the storm.
And then conduct the second inspection immediately after the wet season ends to assess and repair any structural damage caused by the storms and the humidity.
And what happens when a team finds damage? Let's say they spot a crack, a leak, or, early termite trails.
That brings us to step 3, which is the operational core of this entire study, the 30-day rule. When structural damage is identified during an inspection, whether it's cracks, water leaks, termite infestations, or partial collapse, you must commit to repairing it within 30 days.
Okay, let me challenge that time frame. Why specifically 30 days? In the context of managing a large estate with limited labor, getting a maintenance crew out to patch a box within a single month seems like a massive logistical headache.
You can be sure.
Why not just flag it, wait until the end of the quarter, and, repair them all at once?
Because you have to align your administrative deadlines with the biology of the owls. The 30-day window is intimately tied to their breeding cycle and their territorial behavior.
Ah, okay.
Think about it. If a box develops a leak and water pools inside, the microclimate of that nest changes drastically in a matter of days. Mold develops, the wood softens, and the structural integrity rapidly drops.
It goes downhill fast.
Very fast. If a breeding pair of owls is currently scouting for a nest, they will reject a damp box immediately. If they are already nesting and the conditions suddenly deteriorate, the physical stress on the chicks increases exponentially.
Right, like you mentioned with the hypothermia.
Exactly. If you wait 90 days to fix it, the owls have already abandoned the territory, the chicks may have perished from exposure, and the local rat population has already had 2 full breeding cycles to multiply entirely undisturbed.
Wow.
Yeah. 30 days is the maximum biological grace period you have before you lose the owls and start drastically losing your yields in tons per hectare. By keeping the boxes functional, you sustain a nature-based pest control service year-round. This reduces your reliance on expensive chemical rodenticides, cutting your input costs while protecting the environment.
That is a fascinating connection between administrative field deadlines and biological realities. But practically speaking, managing hundreds of wooden boxes across thousands of hectares is a logistical nightmare if you're just using pen and paper.
Oh, absolutely.
You need to map where every box is, record its condition, and flag it for repair to actually apply that 30-day rule effectively. Tracking these assets digitally is exactly why adopting modern farm management tools is becoming completely non-negotiable.
Tracking is everything in modern agriculture today. You cannot manage what you do not measure, whether that is the condition of a wooden box, your monthly rainfall, or, frankly, the nutrient uptake of your bulbs.
Right. And by the way, ensuring your trees have the strength to maximize those yields means you really need a clear picture of what is happening underground, which is why soil testing for acidity and nutrient content is absolutely essential, along with regular leaf testing to catch any hidden deficiencies early.
Definitely. Without that data, you are essentially flying blind.
And to make sense of all that data and organize your logistics, you can easily register on CropDrive.ai. This innovative artificial intelligence, AI, guides fertilization and soil health step by step, and Palmyra answers questions step by step.
It's incredibly useful.
It really is. It actually helps interpret those soil and leaf lab results we just mentioned. And this tool was built by an international team specifically for Malaysian smallholders, making it totally unique worldwide. And it costs a tiny fraction of what you would pay for a traditional consultant. You should definitely join the hundreds of Malaysian smallholders who are already using CropDrive to raise their income and cut costs.
Yeah, it's a game changer. To leave you with one final thought to mull over today, we just spent this entire time discussing how something as simple as wood rot and a few termites can dictate whether an apex predator stays on your farm or abandons it entirely.
Yeah.
Really makes you wonder what other natural systems on your estate might be quietly failing right now, simply because of a lack of basic routine maintenance.
That is a great point to end on. Remember to visit our AI farming assistant at cropdrive.ai to learn more on how to increase your oil palm yields and incomes. Thanks for listening.